coach, and I will be joined by my co-host and fearless leader, Mr. Terrence Hope, a Nagic 6A distributor extraordinaire. And together, we bring you the best of both worlds. Wow, this is call number 399. Oh my goodness. So Saturday's call will be number 400. And I'm just so excited to be on this journey with you all.
100. Wow.
Yeah. So today we're going back to a series that I had started a month ago. And we were talking about the importance of protein. So we've been around the mulberry bush. We've talked about a lot of things, but protein is always in my mind. I'm always thinking now when I'm shopping, I'm always thinking, okay, protein, protein, protein. It used to be just food, 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 but now it's protein, protein, protein. Where's the best protein? So why is that important? We're going to talk about that today. So the title of today's call is Feed Your Muscle or Feed Your Fat. All right, let's see if we can get a little screen share going. Oh, I think it's going to work. There we go. Okay, so protein versus energy. What is the difference? What's the big deal? And I'll tell you what got me, or who got me on this topic. I've been on a keto journey for 2 years now, I figured out. And, my keto has changed over time. And I think that's an important message to give to people who are doing keto, that there are a lot of different ways to do it, but also your keto is going to change with time. And I'm settling down, I think, into this more protein centric concept. And the reason is I ran into the teachings of writings of Dr. Ted Naiman. I was really looking at insulin resistance. So this video here, I think, is what really got me interested in what he was talking about, what causes insulin resistance. But he wrote a book called the P to E diet, or the protein to energy ratio diet. So I'm going to share some of his information with you. But before that, I want to just do a little overview of what do we mean by macronutrients. So we've talked about micronutrients and macronutrients. The micronutrients are the minerals, vitamins, amino acids, essential fatty acids, all the building blocks and cofactors that our bodies need in order to maintain and in order to keep us going, in order to build bodies, in order to do all of the things that we do in our metabolism. But what are the macronutrients? Well, they're building blocks too. So there we go. So this is not from Dr. Naiman, but I love the way this diagram is laid out. It shows us the three main different macronutrient categories: carbohydrates, proteins, right in the middle. I love that. And fats. And I also love the overlap areas, because there are foods that are all carbs, basically. They're foods that are all fats. And what Dr. Naiman tells us is that the carbs and the fats are basically energy. The proteins are the foods that are the building blocks for our our structure, but there could be overlap. So there are foods that have proteins and carbohydrates. These would be the legumes, right? Some vegetables, but I think legumes is the main category. There are others. There are foods that have proteins and fats, such as dairy, such as uh, salmon, such as fatty meats. I think that's ground beef. I'm not sure. But interestingly enough, they don't show on this chart the foods that have carbohydrates and fats. And those are the foods that are bad for us, like really bad. And when you have carbohydrates and fats, even if you add a little protein in there, we can be in trouble. So let's look a little bit further. Dr. Naaman says you can feed your muscle or your fat, and it is your choice. So what are the foods that feed muscle? Well, foods that are high in proteins and amino acids, and not so fatty. And actually, there's a range. There's a scale. There's a spectrum. That's the word I want. Of very, 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 very lean to a mixture of fat and lean when it comes to these proteins. But this is how you feed muscle, the building blocks of muscle tissue. Okay, so let me do a little muting there just for a second. All right. The other side of the scale is energy. These foods, and we need energy, right? We need a certain amount of energy in order just to function. But when we when we overeat the energy and when we mix the energy, when we mix the carbs with the fats, we're feeding our fat cells. So Dr. Naaman, in his book, the P to E ratio or P to E diet, protein to energy ratio diet, he um, makes this scale of things that have all energy, no proteins. That's down here on the horizontal, and things that are all protein. I won't say no energy, but no fats or carbs up on the higher or the vertical axis, the y-axis, and in between, he ranks all of these different foods and combinations of foods. And when I talk about changing my or refining my keto, but even if you're not on keto, if you want to refine your protein, you want to get a little bit more advantage of your protein over the fat, then what you do is you have to move up the scale. And so if you look at a ribeye steak here, and somewhere in here is like the average normal intake of people. But if you look at when I talk about it, I'm talking about numbers, about macronutrients. But let's say you're on keto and you just love the fact that you can have bacon. And so you're eating bacon and cheese and things like that, and you hit a stall. And you're doing what you think is the right thing, but it's just not working like it used to. Well, all you have to do is scooch up a little bit. So we're making our proteins a little more refined, meaning less fat in the protein. So you have more protein and less energy. And here we go with ribeyes, eggs, etc. Now we know soy's on the bad food list, so X that out. Now we want to scooch up a little more, then we're starting to make the protein even leaner and adding in vegetables, for instance. So you can see how when you go further up towards the salmon, right, you're getting more and more and more advantageous in your protein to energy ratio. Here's something really cool. I'm going to interrupt this just a second because he has a calculator. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah. So if you go to p2er.com, so the letter P, the word to, T-O-E-R, so that means protein to energy ratio.com, he's got this calculator and you can look at your diet. You can estimate the grams of proteins that you want. You can add in some fats, your carbs, and you can see that the calculator gives you calories and percentages of protein or of the macronutrient, the percent of those calories. And this is a cool thing here. If you, and he separates fiber out, but if you take fiber, the carbs go automatically. But if you're eating low fiber carbs, right, the fiber doesn't move. I think that's really, really cool. And then when you do that, it puts you at a certain place on the scale, right? So it tells you, okay, if you're eating this ratio of macro or this combination of macronutrients, this is where you have to be on the scale. This is what your diet's going to look like. As opposed to, so that's a really high protein, really low carbs. Let's add in some fat. And where are we? We're down here on the scale, more on the milk, the peanut butter, the processed meat, etc. So you can see when you refine the percentages, bring the fat down a little bit, bring the fiber up. Now we're higher up in that, our angle is higher up. We're closer to the really high protein versus energy ratio. Another cool thing that is in this calculator is you can type in a food and it will give you the numbers for that food. So let's say, I think there's someone on the call that likes sushi. Let's see what sushi shows. So what it will do, wait, let me slide these back. They might be confusing things. All right. Oh, I spelled it wrong. That's right. I knew my fingers didn't feel right typing it. I knew there was a problem. That extra H. Okay, so we typed in sushi. It gives us the top 10 entries, and it gives us the readout for protein, fat, carbs, and fiber. I love the addition of fiber because, as we know, we can subtract fiber from carbs to find net carbs. All right, what's another thing we could type in? Well, we had hamburger initially. So hamburger, but it doesn't just tell you the hamburger, which it does tell you ground beef down here, 70% lean, 30% fat, 85% lean, grass-fed. I love that. But also what you might find in some recipes like beef and macaroni with cheese sauce. So very, very helpful to show you what are the macronutrients that you are consuming, or at least thinking about consuming. So back to the slideshow. he also goes through history. Like, this is an epidemic that we are in, of obesity. Not only obesity, name the chronic disease, right? Particularly diabetes, high blood pressure, et cetera, et cetera. How did we humans eat thousands of years ago, right? Very high protein and fiber, but not so much fat. Then the agricultural revolution hit, and now we're growing wheat, adding grains and starches into our diet. So we've gone from a good normal angle, a good normal amount here, to we're starting to get into the danger zone, right? We want to be green. We want to be in this green zone, not in the red zone. But with refined processing of flour, sugar, oils, look where we are. We're in the red zone. So we've got the tools, we've got the knowledge, and we can dial this back so that we're back in the green zone, and that will be healthy for our bodies. All righty. So that's a little bit more on the P/E ratio. He does such good work. He does so much on that. And I just love the work that he's doing. It's helping me, again, to step up my game, refine my own personal health journey. And like it's not just for keto per se. Anyone can use that anyone can use that information to enhance their diet. I want to refer you to an article. I'm not going to go into this. It's going to be one of the references that's inside the description box of the YouTube video. If you go into our YouTube, the Kangen Water Radio YouTube channel, later on today, you'll see the replay of this video. And in the description, I'm going to put the websites that we went to today, but also there's this one article that I pulled up when I was just looking for what is the optimal protein intake. Now, this article is long, it's huge, but it is so thorough that some of you who want to get some more in-depth information about this, please feel free to go into that replay and download the article. You can actually download the PDF. And I did that. I think it's like 52 pages of really good information. And it breaks it down into if you're an athlete, if you're muscle building, what should your intake be? If you're elderly and active versus elderly and sedentary, if you are young, if you are, if you are vegan, I mean, just every possible way of looking at, I won't say every way, nobody's got everything, but he's got a lot of really great in-depth information about optimal protein intake for the body. Okay, so hopefully we're going to have a little optimal intake to the call. I would love to bring to the floor our fearless leader, Mr. Terrence Hope. Are you with us today, Mr. Hope?
Madam Dr. Singletary, yes, I am. And it's good to be here. And more importantly, it's great to hear the information that you're sharing today. How's my audio? Is it okay to hear me?
I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, I am on location. I'm actually traveling and had some connectivity issues in the process. But I wish you could see what I'm looking at. It's beautiful out there, nice little waterfront. But the connectivity issues still abound. So there's certain things I can't do today in terms of PowerPoints and so forth and images. But
if you'd like a PowerPoint, I could pull it up.
Oh, watch out. Watch out,
You
maybe.
say the
But I do
word.
say the word. Yeah, but I do adore the work that you're doing and the information that you're covering today. You're going into nutrition. You're going into the history of our nutrition. You're going into our human nutrition. You're going into the dynamics of our nutrition that create our better health, which will lead us right into more details about the history of human health, the history of proper nutrition, and being able to do a contrast and comparison of where we were and where we are, and are we better off? And are there things that we can learn? Yeah. So I'm very thankful for the direction that you're going in teaching me and the people, and pulling from the resources that you're finding to enhance the information, to give us a thorough understanding of what is best when we look at ourselves from the perspective of proper nutrition, hydration, and detoxification. So once again, thank you, Dr. Lisa Singletary, MD. Madam. So, I'll just give a brief overview for those who are new on the call today. And if you have any slides at all, Dr. Singletary, regarding PowerPoints on, I don't know, if you have something on the Kangen water machines, that's fine. I can't pull, but maybe you can. I don't know if you can. If you can't, it's okay.
I can change your water, change your life.
Miracles of miracles, you turned around and looked over at me. Sure, we can do that. And so, here on the Kangen Water Health and Information Call, we talk about health, nutrition, and of course, primarily, we talk about Kangen water. And our motto is change your water, change your life. This is the motto of the company, the Enagic Kangen Water Company. And we recognize if you've got better health, better nutrition, better hydration, enhances that and has enhanced it and giving you what you need. And the Kangen water machines actually give you proper hydration that detox you properly. So here you have an example of one of our Kangen water machines. This is the model SD501. And on the left, it goes over the different types of water that we have within the machine for detoxing the body, for hydration, for skin care. We call it beauty water. It is the yellow button highlighted in yellow on the left. It provides a killing off of bacteria under your pores, which tightens up the pores and allows them to be smoother. Ergo, beauty water. We have something known as strong acid water and strong acidic waters. The strong acid water, acidic water, is our 2.5 pH water. And that 2.5 pH water will kill microbes. They will kill viruses. They will prevent mold, and so people use it to sterilize surfaces. Of course, in this day and age, everyone's using it for killing microbes, which has been why, in part, there's been a huge run on the purchase of our Kangen water machines over the past year and a half. The 11.5 water is a higher level. When you press a strong acid water button, 11.5 comes out of the larger tube, while the strong acid water comes out of the smaller tube. And that larger tube will fill up your bowl. You can put your fruits, your vegetables, your chicken, fish, meat, steak, whatever, and you can detoxify the food. That high 11.5 pH emulsifies oil, which will emulsify and break down the oil-based pesticides. So now you can detox your food, let it sit for 15, 20, 30 minutes, get a good detoxification going on your food before you cook your meal, prepare your meal for you and your family, yeah? So what is Kangen water? Kangen water is what we call an electrolyzed reduced water. Electrolyzed reduced water, that's the science term you want to use to look up what Kangen water is. Don't look up Kangen water to look for health benefits, you'll find all kinds of stories. Look up electrolyzed reduced water spelled out here, you'll find the science background on it, yeah? And so what is electrolyzed reduced water? Electrolyzed reduced water is produced in the process known as electrolysis. And in electrolysis, electricity is coming in contact with the water directly. This diagram shows you what's happening when electricity hits water. You're going to get a production of a number of new structures from the water molecule, different ions, different molecules that have an antioxidant effect on the water you're drinking. Dr. Singletary was just highlighting the OH, which is one of the breakdowns from H2O to OH negative. It's called OH negative. It is a molecule that has an alkaline pH to it. We use it primarily as a measuring tool of the overall volume of antioxidant molecules within the water, because there's a 1-to-1 ratio. The more of these OH negative molecules you have, the more of the antioxidant molecules overall are within the water. So we can say that the higher pH, the more the greater the antioxidant effect. And so when water is hit by electricity, like I like to say, kapow, you get this change in the water structure. So here's your example of electricity, lightning striking, coming down, hitting a lake somewhere down there, I'm sure. And when that happens, we're going to see a molecule shifting. In the next slide, there's an example of an H2O molecule, I believe. And when water hits electricity, you get the water molecule dividing into different structures that produce antioxidants. So the whole idea behind the Kangen water machines is to have something that can optimally detox your body and as well give you extra energy. When your body is minimal in toxic load, optimum in energy levels, the body can be more, can maintain its proper balance better. Sorry, I got knocked out there for a second. There are different pH levels in different organs throughout the body. Here we're looking at structures of what's occurring when electricity hits that on the bottom left H2O molecule, going up to the top right, and it breaks it into two segments. H2O becomes OH and H. Of course, you can see that's what water is made of. And now it divides into two segments. Below, we've got the OH negative molecule isolated. And to the far bottom right, we're showing one of the structures that occurs when water is affected by electricity, breaking it down to different structures. So that OH negative molecule has become bonded to additional water molecules that are hanging onto it. One of our earlier illustrations talked about how that helps the water then absorb into your cells better, being led by this ion molecule. We then learned that there are other antioxidant molecules as well involved in helping the detoxification of the cell. So we've learned a great deal, and there's a great deal of benefits as we get to learn more about it from the electrolysis. When we want to look up the subject matter on any kind of health benefit, you want to look for electrolyte reduced water and put that health issue. Electrolyte reduced water, kidney failure. Electrolyte reduced water, cancer issues. Electrolyte reduced water, high blood pressure. And there you'll see the different outcomes that have been found in the clinical trials done. This mostly on animals, I think, in science reviews, clinical trials, using electrolyte reduced water. Kangen water is an electrolyzed reduced water. I want to go ahead and skip this slide for right now. This talks about the attraction of the water to the cell. These are just more illustrations of the breakdown of the molecule from H2O to OH negative and water bonded to it. Just more background where you can go and study for yourself what's happening with this dynamic of electrolysis. But overall, the body is self-healing. Give it what it needs, it will keep itself healthy. And much like Dr. Singletary is talking about with the nutrition that's proper, as she gets closer to the details of proper nutrition, you get to understand why the body is healthy when you have it. The animals in the wild, as depicted in this slide, have none of the health issues that the humans have. There's no high blood pressure among the deer. no kidney failure. None of them are going off to dialysis centers to be, treated and have their blood flushed. There's no high blood pressure, no arthritis. Anytime we see these animals in the wild, we see them looking exactly like this at adult life. We've actually never seen any of these animals looking aged and decrepit. Now, in their lifespan, if there was a parallel to our lifespan, we would imagine some sort of breakdown. Well, why are they not breaking down? And why are the humans breaking down? We're not eating the same thing they're eating. They're eating proteins and produce and whatever water they have access to. We're eating McDonald's and Kentucky Fried Chicken and Skittles and Twizzlers and cotton candy. What even is any of these things, or what even are any of these things? So we are not eating an organic diet, and there's a lot of edible matter, things that you could eat anything. You could eat wax fruit too, if you could break it down, into a powder form and chew it or something. That doesn't mean it's beneficial. So we're eating things that are not meant for proper nutrition, are not meant for our bodies to really ingest, and that causes toxic issues. Also causes nutrition deficiencies. You're not so.
Okay. Oh, he's back. It looks like we lost him for a second.
Now I keep getting bouncing out, but that's okay. Just want to go over a little summary of Kangen water and its benefits. Remember, it's an antioxidant water. It's good for your health. Get back to nature, and you get back to the origin of how your body functions best, so you can have good function and live a long, healthy life as you're designed to. Okay, I'll put it back to you, Dr. Singletary. We'll see if there's anybody with any questions out there. Good to see your smile today.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hope, for those awesome remarks. You always come up with something. Okay, so yeah, you've had variations of edible matter, consumable matter, but to this statement that you made, it's like you might as well eat waxed fruit. In fact,
Wow.
waxed fruit might be better for people than some of the stuff they're eating because of the presence of acrylamides and heterocyclic amines, and that form when we are glycating our foods. So, but you never
What does it mean
disappoint
to
me.
glycate our foods? What does that mean to glycate our foods?
When we do the, we talked about the Maillard reaction, how proteins and how sugars react when you heat them, and that's why you get grill marks, and you get when you like that, the charred bits of when you get developing that flavor, you're also developing other things that are carcinogenic. So
wow. So you're eating fire. I guess at that point you're eating burnt matter, and it tastes good, so you eat it.
Tastes good. It's like putting poison right around the chocolate, or other way around, putting the chocolate around the poison.
The grill. It would have been nice if that grill was more like a charcoal almost, that allowed for better absorption of your meal or something. It's too bad. It certainly does taste good, I have to admit.
Well, I do wonder. Yeah, you're right, and you pick your battles. You do, but the use of natural wood charcoal versus the treated charcoal, I'm sure gives you a whole, just a level of benefit, just from the chemicals that they treat the charcoal with. Just imagine those hydrocarbon chemicals, and then they heat them up, and all of that smoke is going into your food. Yeah. So
wow, that, and as you go on to your next item, that really brings up a whole other area. So cooking our food and grilling it with wood. Now we know that if a forest burns down, the minerals are still within the ashes. and they'll fertilize the soil. So now if we're cooking with firewood, and it gets a grill to it, well, you're talking about the burnt matter of the actual food, which may not be as much the burnt matter of the actual wood.
Right.
So it might be that inflammation then if it's burnt.
Yeah. So what we recommended, that was in call number 50. And then we did a call recently. I can't tell you what number it was right now, but it was called sauce over sizzle.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if you remember that one, but we were talking about healthy food, healthy ways of cooking food, and how the moisture methods such as steaming, poaching, braising, baking are better than everything's better than frying, but anything that's fried or dry heat, when you make high heat, and it depends on the heat and the time, but making those compounds form the acrylamides and the heterocyclic amines and other things. But as you know, I love a pressure cooker. So the pressure cooker does high-ish heat, but shortens the time. So, and it's moist. So I just love pressure cooking for many, many reasons.
So, does anyone have any questions out there? I'm sure we got a community with questions about the food intake and.
Yeah, feel free, raise your hands or type questions into the chat. I haven't checked the chat. Oh, Gloria made it back. Gloria was the first one here. She was in the room before I was, but then I don't know, something took her away. And I said, no, please, please, Gloria, come back, come back, come back. And so she did. Welcome back, Gloria. Thanks for the comment. So since we do have a second, and we are not on Facebook right now.
Correct.
So all the chat is in the Zoom. I'm just going to pull up, if I can, my call topics log.
Nice.
And
wow, so
like amazing. I said, this is call number 399. And you guys, you can get this just for the asking, and you will have one-click access to all of our calls. There it is, number 387 with sauce over sizzle. Healthy versus unhealthy cooking methods. And number 50, as you know, one of our favorite calls was, let me move this out of the way. There we go. The first call in our 5-step cycle of cancer series. And the first step is diagnosis, but we talked about prevention. So the question that inspired that call as far as the prevention side was, are air fryers healthy? So we had fairly vigorous research and discussion into air fryers on that call. So
what was the answer to that question? Are air fryers healthy?
It depends. You could still, you know, if you're charring things in the air fryer, then no. But you know, the air fryer can be a good way to cook, but you have to prepare things. You have to, for instance, if you marinate things, that holds the moisture in better, and so it makes the cooking safer. If you if you not just marinate, but coat them periodically in something such as a rice-based beer. They just said beer. They didn't specify, but we know that wheat-based beers or hops-based beers are filled with gluten and therefore bad. But rice-based beers, so Japanese beers, I think New Zealand, maybe Australian beers I don't know, but the moisture delays the development of those bad compounds. Now I see there's a question Hayat has. What is the air, I think, fryer in comparison to the traditional one? So no, there's no way to make a traditional fryer healthy, right? When you are immersing food into oil and it's covered on all sides, and the oil interacts with proteins and the oil interacts with the carbohydrates with the heat, that combination is really bad. In fact, there was one study. They asked, I think it was a study of nurses. It might have been a subset of the Framingham study. It sounded like a subset of Framingham to me. But they asked these nurses how they ate and how they cooked. And they found between the nurses that did not fry and did not grill hamburgers, so they had healthier cooking habits, a 38% reduction in the risk of breast cancer. So it was a real significant finding that
and
it
can you
really
repeat
makes
that
a difference.
statistic? So these nurses decreased something toxic in their diet, and they decreased their likelihood of contracting cancer, or
Yeah.
where you would normally see among a female population.
Well, this was a huge
30%.
population study over decades.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so could you repeat that again, what we saw?
38% reduction in the risk of breast cancer.
Uh-huh. And that was because they did what change in their diet?
Cooking healthier, like not frying, not eating grilled, grill marks on their hamburgers, things like that.
Grilled mark on the salmon.
I'm not talking about salmon.
Stay off the good stuff. Stay off those things.
The salmon untouched. The salmon is untouched.
Let us have something.
Okay, Hyatt's got her hand up.
Oh, yeah, love Hyatt.
Welcome to the call.
Welcome from the UK.
Hi guys, how you doing?
Hi, Hyatt.
Yeah, sadly there is less knowledge awareness among the average person around the world that fried the oil that we use in our cooking is actually synthetic, and is proven to be, because that started to be produced at the beginning after mid 1800 and took its space straight after the Second World War, like in a speed that it where the multinational companies had commercialized it in a way where it was more attractive. And all the restaurants I know in the States used to use fatty butter in their cooking in many restaurants, and people used to love it. But then when the synthetic oil was introduced, they replaced it because it was cheaper, and therefore they could increase their profit margin in the marketplace. So the synthetic oil is actually highly toxic, and it contains high level of omega-6 fatty acid. So, and the sadness about this is synthetic oil is highly incorporated into our culture, and is more used among African, Caribbean, and Asian communities. And it's, it's not only, highlighting not to reduce fried eating and fried food or fast food takeaways. It's also about reducing, almost to eliminating the usage of oil at all. So that is a big mission, and it's almost like fighting against the demons in the marketplace. But I think fried food, I see today so many young children. I used to live with a single mom. Her 13-year-old daughter, she lived on takeaways. It is, and I can see her, when she passed her 20s, that she would develop some kind of chronic conditions. And it's true. One of the girls I know also developed to cancer. She's in her mid-20s, and it's shocking. It's scary, and I believe we're gonna have a whole set of generation that is behind us that is gonna be highly toxicated. So I don't know how you look at this, and what is your takeaway of addressing this?
Well, thank you for, definitely bringing that up. We do talk extensively. Well, we talk about a lot of stuff, but one of the things we talk about is the history of the demonization of butter. And that when you talk about the industrial complex, the history of Crisco, which, when I grew up, Crisco was like the thing to use in the kitchen. My grandmother used it in cakes. She used it to fry stuff. There was Crisco. Then 10 years later, maybe there's butter flavored Crisco, whatnot. But where did this Crisco come from? And why was it getting so much advertising? And where it came from was, you mentioned the war. It was a diesel lubricant for submarines. They wanted to find, I think it was the Germans, wanted to find a smokeless or a high smoke point diesel lubricant for their subs. And at the end of the war, they had so much left over that they tried to sell it, and they tried to sell it as something to make soap. But a lot of people at that time were making their own soap, because of the war, people got very industrious. And so they didn't need this Crisco to make soap. And so they went to the advertisers and say, we got to sell this stuff. What else can we do with it? And they sell it as, or started selling it, marketing it for the kitchen. And that wasn't enough. They didn't sell enough. And so they actually went on to a campaign to demonize butter, so that they started saying butter is bad and it's better to cook with margarine, like you said, artificial, and Crisco. So there's a long history in this country, not just this country, around the world, of marketing by the food multinational industrial complex to cultivate unhealthy habits in our everyday lives in order to sell their products. And in this case, it was waste products from the war that they turned into something that was absolutely necessary for the kitchen. So you are so right in talking about the oils. And one of the things that you'll find, we do have a good food, bad food list available, and we have a video by Dr. Peter Glidden called The 12 Bad Foods. And one of the bad foods is, or if on that list of bad foods, is oil. So anytime in oil, particularly seed oils, but anytime an oil is extracted from its natural source and exposed to oxygen, it starts to oxidize and it starts to form these compounds that we're talking about that can enhance, be start or enhance cancerous processes in the body. Now, there's a big controversy about olive oil being healthy or not healthy. And I tell people, if you got the olive tree in your backyard and you can squeeze it and squeeze the oil out, it is absolutely healthy. But if that olive oil has been exposed to air, oxygen in particular, has been sitting on a shelf or has been traveling on a slow boat from Italy to America, or wherever it's from. Italy is not the only place that has olive trees, but the integrity of that oil starts to break down as soon as it's exposed to air. So if you have a jar of oil and there's a little gap of air on top, it has already started going bad. So we consider oil to be on the no fly zone, no go list. Now, if you could get an oil, and maybe someone's working on this, I've had this idea for years. If you could get an oil that is processed in a nitrogen-rich environment and oxygen-free environment, then it will not be oxidizing, and it will be. And if you could do that and put it in little aliquots, so just enough for whatever meal you're preparing, just enough for your salad, or just enough for whatever you want to do with it, then it is in its more natural state. When I say more natural, the natural state is in the olive. And there are different stages of processing, but as soon as you crush that olive, if you're not in a nitrogen environment, if you're in an oxygen environment, you're starting to oxidize that oil. And the same goes for supplements, the fatty acids, the essential fatty acids. When you see essential fatty acids, if you don't know for sure that those fatty acids were made in an oxygen-free, extracted in an oxygen-free environment, then you could be taking something in that's been oxidizing right on the shelf, right in the gel cap. And a lot of times I think, I can't prove this, but I think a lot of times that's why they smell so fishy, is because not because they're from fish, because really fresh fish, really fresh salmon doesn't have that awful rancid fishy smell. So I think a lot of that is because of oxidation inside the capsule that's happening. And when you take essential fatty acids that have been harvested from the fish and processed in an oxygen-free environment, my experience is you don't get that fishy taste or the lingering effect. But like I said, I can't prove that. That's anecdotal experience or anecdotal evidence, not empirical. But I've heard it from a lot of people that there's a big difference in the effects, just when it comes to that fishiness, that fishy odor. When they can find out how were those essential fatty acid capsules processed, and you're not always in a position to know. So it's really comforting when you do have a manufacturer that will tell you yes, our salmon's harvested in Norway in a nitrogen-rich environment, and every step of processing is in an oxygen-free environment. Super important when it comes to fatty acids. So thank you, Hyatt. Excellent point, excellent question. Okay, any more questions? You can raise your hand or you can put them in the chat. And what I will do is when I really found I found several articles that I thought were really interesting today to bring to you. So what I will do is I'll put a couple more of those articles. One of them was what foods are, let me see. I might have it here. Yeah, okay. Foods to eat that are high in protein and low in carbs. I love this list. So except for, I'm guessing, I don't remember, I looked at so many lists, but I think there was soy on this list, and we know soy, no go, because so much of it is genetically modified. Maybe we'll do a discussion about genetically modified foods. But yeah, protein to energy, super important. Your fats being non-oxidized, super important. And that's why processed foods are on the bad food list as well. And what is a processed food? For instance, you take some almonds, you put them in the food processor, right? You have processed those almonds. And guess what? You've exposed those almonds to oxygen. So right from the time the blade spins around and breaks them up, they're starting to be oxidized. So whole foods are much better for you. Now, people have asked me about, did you have a question, Dale?
No, sorry, that's an accident.
Okay. So people have asked me about almond milk, for instance, and these other nut milks, cashew milk, the nut butters. If they're not done, if they're exposed to oxygen, they're starting to oxidize. So I'm like, bad idea. Now, if you get the almonds, you whiz them up in the food processor, you soak them overnight, or probably you soak them first, soak them overnight, then blend them in the food processor, and then you strain them and get that milk that way. I'm all for it. But once it's in a carton on a shelf for you don't know how long, it has begun to oxidize. So processed foods, nut milks, nut butters, not good. All right, so Mr. Hope is coming in. He's coming. He's coming.
Here.
He's here. Yeah.
Technology has been a challenge today.
Just in time to close. Well, you might have one thing to say about nut butters and nut milks, almond milk, about oils.
I do. So, and just so you all know, I'm actually here visiting in New York with my mother. Whoops. That's my mom sitting right next to me. So everybody say hi.
Hey, mommy.
That's Mrs. Hope.
We love you.
Love you too. Pleased to meet you.
That's Dr. Lisa Singletary. We
Miss
are joined by
Claudine.
people all around the world, from the United Kingdom to Dubai to the US. So everybody say hi, Mom. Everybody say hi to Terrence Hope's mom.
Hello, may God bless you.
Ah, you're getting blessings there.
Caribbean mama.
Ah, there you go.
Dios te bendiga.
Thank you. Thank you. Amen. Amen. You know,
All
and
right,
I
Mr. Hope, we'll keep you. It was touch and go.
I got my mom here, so y'all can't mess with me today, right?
It was touch and go, but
That's my sweet baby boy.
we'll keep
Mama's
you.
baby.
Yes, I'm the youngest one too.
That's the baby.
You know, and I really enjoyed as well the comments that Hyatt was making, you know, about the oils. And Dr. Singletary, I was glad to see you follow up with the information that you and I both received from Dr. Wallach, you know, many years ago. It talked about Crisco oil. We'll get into the names. That's right. I said it, Crisco. Western oil, the other vegetable oils, and the harmful effects that those actually have on our health that people never knew about. You know, and Dr. Singletary talked about how butter had become the bad guy on the block, you know, by the 1960s and 70s. And, oh, we found out that butter is not really good for you, that it causes heart problems. No, it doesn't. We've been eating that thing since the beginning of time. Grandma made all the food with that. And my family, we're from the Caribbean. My grandparents lived into their 90s and 100s. Easy. And that's from eating the proper foods the whole time, right? So then we get to the 1960s, and Good Housekeeping wants to tell us that, oh, well, you know, butter's no good for you, but we have a solution. Now you're going to cook with Crisco, right? And that's going to be better for your health. And we found out science is saying, listen, by the time science keeps saying the name science, and I'm telling you that science has the answer to everything, and that science is this and science that will follow the science, this science. Listen, I get tired of hearing about science and all the errors that occur. I said it, that's right. They make a lot of errors occur. Look at the FDA. They approve all these things 1 year, and the next thing, most of those things were in litigation for all the damage that occurred to people. I said it, that's right. You know, so the science out there, listen, science is not science for, it's not infallible. And we've seen it to be mostly in error. So let's just get real about what the science is and what we're following when we're following that. We need to follow what makes actual sense and be careful when people try to manipulate us for profit's sake into things that they so-call science that were supposed to be helpful, beneficial for our health. That's not what's the case. Is that sometimes that a scientist and the company producing the product can be in the same, you know, bed together and say, we're going to go in and do this for profit's sake? Yes, it's possible. These are human beings. Human beings are fallible. Human beings can be lured by profit, and whatever industry they're in, it's the same person. Yeah. So we got to be careful. Oils, not the best for our bodies. Getting back to what was best, as we always talk about, getting back to origins, butter, animal fats. We've been eating that for eons. We have to get back to what is true. So I appreciate Hyatt bringing that point up, and Dr. Singletary having the opportunity to highlight it. But once again, we've been here on the Kangen Water Health and Information Call, international, coast to coast, continent to continent, country to country. And I'm always so encouraged to have so many people coming from so many locations and visiting with us. India, Dubai, the United Kingdom, including Scotland, England, Wales. I'm gonna call you out, Sharon, and family out there in Wales, in Northern Ireland and Ireland Prime. You know, there's two sections to Ireland. You know, the northern part is part of the United Kingdom. The southern part is actually Ireland Prime, two different countries almost, you know. But glad to have everybody on the call. Nigeria, Uganda. Welcome all. So Dr. Singletary, are we going to go to roll out? Anybody got any questions on the way out?
Well, I am going to thank everyone for being on the call as well. And I do want to remind you about going to YouTube. I will send you a link, of course, to the replay or to the playlist. I'm going to send you to the playlist. I mean, I'm going to say, so you can see all the videos. But when you go into an individual video, you can go into the description and get so many goodies. I put a lot of goodness into the videos for you. And so your Kangen water experience can, or your Kangen water radio experience can extend long beyond the call. And hopefully the value that you get from the call will pursue or persist long beyond the call. When you do go there, please, please, please like us, love us, comment, subscribe, all the things, you know what to do. But we really appreciate when you do it. And I'm just honored to be here. Thank you, Mr. Hope, for having me on your call. And let's see. I'm not sure which slide, which PowerPoint that was, if I have any contact information on the PowerPoint, but I do have a little bit on
It might be there.
my
I don't know about that. Right.
thingy. Okay,
Oh, here comes the thingy.
there's the thingy. Can you see it?
I
All
can
right,
see
so
it.
we'll be here on Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern
Mm.
on Kangen Water Radio Zoom, and it will also be on Facebook Live on Saturday. And we just invite you back. That'll be our 400th call.
Woo!
You believe that, Mr. Smith? Mr. Smith,
Yeah.
Mr. Hope.
Come
Call
on, Mr.
number
Smith, I'll take that too.
400,
Wow.
and we're going to be talking about the Flexner Report
The Flexner Report.
and the effect of the Flexner Report on medicine, even today.
Wow.
What, again, back to Hyatt's comment, the medical, industrial, multinational corporations have done to influence the practice of medicine and the health of the world.
Absolutely. So that Flexner Report, I'm so excited to hear about that. The Flexner Report, Kangen Water Radio, Kangen Water Health Information Call, number 400. And I will be so glad to hear about that and talk about that. Flexner, how do we spell that? Is that F-L-E, continue?
XNER.
Flexner Report. You know, someone asked me just a week ago, what's the difference between the health we have today and what health we had before and which one was better? One thing they didn't know about was the Flexner Report, what actually manually shifted us from natural approaches to our health to now approaches that are strictly pharmaceutical, and to the point where any natural approach is actually demonized.
Even in the way we talk about the natural approaches, Mr. Hope, because you just talked about research, science, trusting the science and trusting the
Wow.
research. And, you know, if you stay in the research in the alternative medicine community or in the natural medicine community side
Right.
by side with the research that the allopathic doctors and the
Right.
medical industrial complex, how they're making their decisions.
Right.
I'm saying the research in the natural community can't,
more effectiveness.
I'll say this, it can no longer be called quackery or unstudied or unscientific.
Sure.
There was a time where there was a huge difference in the research, but now that more people are voting with their pocketbooks and more companies are finding the value in studying alternative or the natural approaches, the research is amazing. And when you put natural and medicine side by side,
Right.
the natural wins out. And when you think about side effects, when you put that into the equation, that it's hands down.
Sure.
So not making claims.
You know, Dr. Singletary? Yeah.
Not making claims.
Just showing the data.
Showing the data.
Just showing the data. And I tell you this, Dr. Singletary, you know, this Saturday, we're going to do a call, thanks to you, on the Flexner report, the transition of nutritional approaches to your health to pharmaceutical approaches to your health, and how that happened and why. And something you just brought up, which has now triggered something else, I guess we're triggering each other as we go along, is the comparison. So I think maybe on a future date, we can think about bringing up a comparison and maybe taking 3 examples, although we could take more, and take a look at the research behind a natural approach to a health matter, a chronic illness, and the clinical trial with a pharmaceutical approach, and put them side by side. We have to begin to remove the label alternative medicine from natural approaches, because at the end of the day, you are affecting the health. So if I give you something that is already in the fruit with the element that heals you, and you eat that and your body gets the benefit from it, or I create and synthesize what would be the makings of a new artificial fruit, take the element out of the organic fruit, put it in the artificial one, and give it to you. Now, I'm going to call that a pharmaceutical. Yeah. And ingest that. Well, which one is which? They're both doing the same thing. Yeah. So you're going to tell me science says this, Simon says this, science says this, well, it's already here. And we have to remove the concept that medical doctors have. Oftentimes it's a veneer as though they were trained in Starfleet Academy on Star Trek, and they can fly starships like Captain Kirk, and we mere mortals have no connection to that. Leave it to those great minds who can fly from here where no man has gone before. But everything they're using came from planet Earth. Nothing new under the sun. You got it from someplace, which means it was already out there.
The humanoids.
So I'm going to go forward.
All right, Mr. Hope.
All right. So the Flexner report, and then on a date further in the future, we'll do a comparison of particular chronic illnesses, the clinical trials using a natural approach, and the clinical trial using a pharmaceutical approach, and contrast and compare. Wop, wop.
Wop.
Oh yeah, it's getting hot up in here.
So listen, I want to see you blow your mama a kiss, and then we can go.
Mama. Oh, and Gregory, since you're here. Actually, I have 5 brothers, and one of them are actually here today.
Awesome.
A couple of them are in the area, but they want to take a bite of you, Mom. And say hi to Greg. And my brother is actually an environmentalist
Miss
himself,
Claudine, right?
a chemical engineer in environmental sciences, legal.
We are family.
Mwah. Love you all. Mwah.
All right,
Mwah.
love you too.
Mwah.
Yeah. All right. From sea to shining sea, from continent to continent, from India to Dubai to the UK to the US. Cheers.
Woo.